Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back. Today I wanted to talk about something that I have held as a mantra since pretty much since I started in work, and that is don't sweat the small stuff. It's something that I see a lot of people doing, and it never works out well for them. Sorry, I don't see them doing, and it never works out well for them if you get upset or fuss about every little thing, then you are going to live a miserable life because you're always going to be upset, you're always going to be worrying, you're always going to be having to live up to one rule set or another or something else that you've told yourself just because something went wrong or you disagree with something or that your feelings don't feel good or whatever else. Don't sweat it. Doesn't matter. The whole universe that will exist long after your death is going to eventually just dissolve into a empty waste of various particles that have run out of energy, and it's really going to amount to nothing. Um, or there's going to be a big bang and everything's going to get a big crunch or whatever. Everything's going to get destroyed all over again, and it'll be, back to square one. Um, and so, in the grand scheme of things, is it really worth wasting your tiny moment of life on this minuscule rock floating through space, worrying about what someone called you, what someone said, what is in the news, how um, upsetting and miserable various things make you. Um, you know, yeah, to maintain a happy life, if you've got something that has happened that has been absolutely appalling, then yeah, you should address it. But if someone turned around and called you a dickhead, is that something to get really upset about? No. If you find out that someone has used a picture of you that you had um, for, I don't know, let's say a video thumbnail, then would that be something you should worry about? Probably not. Don't sweat the small stuff. It's not going to in any way negatively affect you, so why care? I give you an example. If you don't sweat the small stuff, then people will take you seriously when something actually goes wrong. You will not be crying wolf at all times. Yeah? Everyone knows the story of the boy who cried wolf, right? I mean, little boy comes along, tells everyone that there's a wolf. They all go out looking for one to kill it. Nothing there. Kid's just disrupted everybody for his own purposes. Does it again the second day. They take him more seriously for some reason, and they go out, and it's still all just a joke on his behalf because he finds it really funny. Third day, Wolf comes along, eats the motherfucker because they don't come out and help because he's done it so many times now that they just don't care. If that kid had only actually worried about the wolf, or only made a deal about the wolf, the one time when the wolf was about to eat the motherfucker, then that wouldn't have been a problem, would it? People would have taken him seriously, and they would have come along and dealt with it and protected him. And this is where I have issue with all of the people on every single side of every political spectrum of every other bit here and there and so on and so forth, who all come out with their opinions and their complaints when their complaints and opinions are so small about one such so small and specific thing that in no way will actually affect their life or the lives of those people that they care about. Let's take something that I'm completely removed from, just as an example. The whole thing over transgender people using toilets in North Carolina in the United States. Yeah, this seems like a good one because most, if not all, of the individuals that voted on that, um, probably considering how small the transgender subset of the populace is, considering that, I would be fairly confident in saying that most of the individuals that voted on that probably do not have someone who is transgender within their kind of social circle or within their family or within their circle, their various other social circles and circles of influence. As a result, why were they making such a big fuss over it? Like, no one, as long as there is no correlation between them using those toilets and crime, which there wasn't, because, let's face it, everyone needs to use the toilet, regardless of what you may or may not have underneath your clothing. You need to do it, and those toilets are there for a purpose. It's a case of, why do we have gender toilets? Okay, well, we have gender toilets that are divided by your biological sex more so than your actual than the gender you claim to be, but we have that division because, let's face it, there are different needs on both sides. However, should you single yourself out by, I don't know, for example, looking like a woman and going into a man's toilet? Should you do that and bring more attention to yourself when otherwise potentially people wouldn't know? I would say there's no point in drawing that attention to yourself, especially considering that, you know, being a transgender individual, going through the process of changing yourself from one um, gender to the other in a very physical sense, that's a lot of work to do. You've put so much work, especially in the States where you actually have to pay for absolutely everything and there's no socialized health at all to help you in your recovery or in whatever else happens with you, where you've got to put all of that time and effort and money into doing that. Why would you do all of that just to go and then assault someone in a toilet? Seems like an awful lot of effort to me. But seemingly, that tiny, tiny issue that has no real factual or quantitative backing, that seemed to ruffle a few feathers, and that seemed to get a lot of people upset. And as a result, that tiny issue got turned into national and international news just because. And as a result, it caused all manner of problems for the people that had actually voted for that and approved it and all the rest of it, in which case, was all of that really worthwhile? I can't really see it being so. And so that's a good example. An example that was a bit closer to me now. When I used to work for one particular firm that I used to work with, there was a person who was slightly higher up the chain than me, and every little thing would throw this guy into a bad mood, and he would get very upset, and he would um, put thumb screws on people, not in a literal sense, but in a figurative way. He would really try and push people, and he'd be a really miserable dickhead, and he would try and use whatever leverage he could get to either improve things so that he didn't have his boss have a go at him, or he would just do it because he didn't like something. And as a result, he was resented. People didn't like him. He was hard to work with. You know, you've got all manner of other things to be worrying about, and yet you're focusing on every little thing instead. You're not taking the time out to trust people or to look at the small things as just a thing that happens. You know, the boss that we had at the time, guy in charge of the whole site, he was great. If something went wrong and it was just a little thing, you know, something fell off a shelf and got smashed. Yeah, as long as it was cleaned up properly and no one, I don't know, let's say it was a bottle of something, yeah, something glass or whatever. As long as no one got glass in their feet, as long as you didn't have to fill out umpteen million accident forms for people who had stepped on glass or cut themselves whilst trying to clean stuff up and all that kind of thing. If it was dealt with, it was dealt with. It was fine. Accidents happen. That's life. Who gives a shit? Just make sure that it doesn't stop everything else from continuing. This other guy, who was just a little bit up the chain from me, smallest thing on a regular basis, not all the time, obviously. Sometimes he was in a good mood, but most of the time, small thing would happen, small insult, small slight against him. Someone didn't do exactly what he wanted or whatever else. He'd flip out. And he would do it in a cold, kind of vicious way as well. But that's more a testament to the kind of person he was than anything else. But Then you look at what I was doing, where it was like, again, like our boss at the top of the chain. If it was small but didn't actually stop anything, it was inconvenient, it was a bit of a shame, but it wasn't a problem. Yeah? Pick it up, sort it out, keep going. Yeah? There's no stopping. I wasn't upsetting people. People were willing to work with me. People were willing to come and talk to me about it because they knew that I wouldn't care. You know, not caring in a general way is one of the strongest things that people can do to develop themselves, because you realize that there are things that you can deal with and things that you can't deal with, and there are only a certain number of those two groups that actually really apply to you in your life. And so, is it worth worrying about? No, it's not, because as said at the beginning of this video, you've only got a tiny amount of time on this planet, in this life, so make the most of it. You know, am I going to spend most of my time worrying about small things in regards to other people? No. How about I worry about the big things in regards to me? Um, you know, granted, that sounds weird coming from a life coach, but one of the reasons that I am a good life coach is because when I sit down with someone, I don't care about their lives. I am interested in their lives because they can provide interesting pieces of information for these videos or for whatever else. But do I care about them? Am I involved in them? No, I'm not. I'm objective. I sit outside of it. And that's why when people come and talk to me, I don't need to judge them. I don't get upset about what they do, and the only time I'll get frustrated is if they have been paying me and they have been making plans with me, and yet then they are stopping me from doing my job because they've not done anything. If they've got a good enough reason, there was one individual that came to me at one point and said that they couldn't continue doing what they were doing the week before because there was a funeral in their family. Someone had passed away. In which case, all I can do there is offer my condolences and we pick up again and continue. When someone hasn't done something because they just haven't, they haven't got round to it, they haven't bothered, that shows a distinct lack of commitment, and it stops me from doing what I need to do, what they are paying me to do. In which case, then it becomes a problem. But that's still a very small situation, but it affects my work and theirs in a bigger way. But otherwise, all the other little issues in the world, they're not a problem. They're a problem for someone, they don't affect me, so why should I care? And as much as there are certain things in regards to decency and right and wrong and all those kind of things that could be addressed, everyone always thinks they're right. Very few people are willing to admit they're wrong. In which case, when it comes to tiny, tiny issues that really make no difference, why bother causing the argument between people who think they're right and people who think they're wrong just because you can? Again, going back to the boy who cried wolf, if you're continually bringing up every little thing, then when you say something that's actually important, it means nothing. And we see this in every single walk of life and in every single component part of our society. There are small issues that just affect very tiny kind of amounts of people. If they affect anyone really at all, and yet they are brought up again and again as issues that need to be complained about instead of just being dealt with. Again, this is where I've talked before about don't try and be right, don't try and be good, don't try and be evil, don't try and be any of those things, just try and be effective. Yeah, do the best you can do, make it work. That's all you need to do. There's no point in doing anything else. Because if you're going to be evil, then you're going to be a dickhead anyway, so there's no helping you. And if you're going to try and be good, then as I mentioned and as I made an entire other video about, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You're still not going to get anywhere other than possibly a really bad place. The people who have done the best for the world, the people who are often held up and revered as individuals who have done well and who have enriched society, they're not people who sat around and complained or sat around and worried about everything. They're people like, I don't know, just for the sake of argument, Albert Einstein, yeah, or various other scientists who didn't sit around and worry. They just went and did stuff. They made things. They came up with theories that govern or that support laws of physics, or that suggest a way of governing certain things. And as a result, those things now help us advance further. You don't have that from people who just sit around and complain, or people who don't have enough of a perspective or enough ambition to push beyond the little things into the big ones. And I'm sure that there are lots of people who would say that certain things are big issues. But again, I would say that the only thing that made, for example, the North Carolina bill in regards to transgender toilets, the only thing that made that a big issue was the fact that it was brought up in the first place. But that's my 2 cents, and I hope that you guys find it interesting. Tell me, how often have you had people that just go to pieces over the small things? Yeah? Are you an individual that finds it really hard to ignore small things? And who gets flustered on a regular basis by anything that goes wrong? Um, is failure, or the fear of failure, a really hard thing for you to deal with? Let me know in the comments down below. If you found this interesting, then please like and subscribe for more. Anyway, take care, guys.